What's going on, everybody? It's been a while. Sorry. Back in April, at the end of April, I got influenza A, and then I've had just a string of viruses ever since, and I'm just barely getting my voice back now, so this is very exciting. This is gonna be just a voiceover video because I look like death. Guys, let's talk about Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers. This movie has been kind of a surprise. Like, honestly, based on the trailers, I had pretty much zero interest in seeing this movie. Like, zero interest at all. Just because it looked like a cheap cash-in. Didn't look like Disney was really trying with this. It looked like it was just going to be references for references' sake. So I had not planned on watching it, not at all. Despite the fact that, you know, I like Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers, from what I remember. Guys, I just went back and watched a couple episodes of Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers, and I mean, it's still pretty good. But there's also some stuff that maybe is better left unremembered about that show.
I can make little cars into big cars. Now it guzzles gas, pollutes air, is impossible to park, and costs a fortune. It's everything Americans look for in automobiles.
Ooh. Anyways, I like Chip 'n Dale just fine. It wasn't as good as DuckTales, or Darkwing Duck, or Tailspin, but it you know, if it was on, I wasn't changing the channel. You know what I mean? I don't have like this like deep love for Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers. It's nostalgic enough, but it's not like Disney could ruin it for me. You know, like they're not gonna ruin my childhood by messing with Chip 'n Dale, right? But that also means I wasn't like super jonesing for a reboot. I wasn't really gonna see this movie, you know, and then it releases on the 20th, and I'm shocked to see that it's getting pretty decent reviews, and then even more shocked that like it's getting a pretty decent audience score. So, I don't know, curiosity overcame my apathy and I decided to watch the movie. And for everybody that loved Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers, I loved it too. It was really good, it was hilarious. It was a laugh riot, and the nostalgia, I mean, just completely washed over me. It was good, absolutely great, and your opinion of the film is 100% right, and I agree with it. And you can go ahead and click off the video now. I thank you for watching. Don't worry about the fact that there's still, you know, like 10 minutes left on this video. That's just me talking about other stuff that you don't just click off. Okay, I have watched this movie now 5 or 6 times. I've watched it 5 or 6 times, and I am, for the life of me, I'm trying to figure out why everybody loves this movie. I've watched it so many times. I don't understand it. I don't understand it. I keep watching it expecting that finally some piece is going to fit in, and I'm going to understand why everybody seems to think that this is the second coming of Roger Rabbit. But guys, I don't get it. I don't understand it. There is nothing here. There is nothing in this movie but a bunch of references. It doesn't say anything. It doesn't have any real charm. There's no clever writing. The direction is incredibly sloppy. The humor is just, I mean, as surface level as you can get for one thing, but then also some of the pacing on the jokes is just horrible. I don't get it! I don't understand! I don't get it! Like, how are Chip 'n Dale in 3rd grade in 1982, but then they're graduated and they're making their own movies by like 1989. They're making their own shows by 1989. That doesn't make sense. The timelines don't add up. A universe where people and cartoons are living side by side, just like Roger Rabbit. And this film is a spiritual successor to Roger Rabbit. What are you talking about, man? What are you talking about? Roger Rabbit, they actually took the time to do the 2D animation, and it looks incredible. Roger Rabbit, to this day, 30 years later, still looks incredible. And here's the other thing they went and bothered and did with Roger Rabbit. They wrote a story that actually said something, that actually had some substance. They didn't just rely on the fact that, oh my gosh, Bugs Bunny and Mickey Mouse are in this. Isn't this incredible? No! The references aren't the main point of Roger Rabbit. Roger Rabbit tells this incredible story about how private corporations destroyed the LA transit system, and in the meantime, they also took down neighborhoods of minorities. That's right, toons represent minorities. Roger Rabbit actually says something. What does Chip 'n Dale say? Chip 'n Dale says, "Look at Ugly Sonic, isn't this ridiculous?" And is it fair To expect the dream team behind the script to do little, to be able to write something as memorable and wonderful as Who Framed Roger Rabbit? No. And the acting in this movie, I mean, look at Ellie.
Sorry, sir. I searched the perimeter. No clues.
The hell was that? Are you some kind of robot? What is that? And John Mulaney and Andy Samberg are very funny guys, and I don't understand how they sound so... Emote! Like, I don't know. I'd maybe sit in on J.K. Simmons when he's voice acting and take notes from that. And don't even... what is the deal with Sweet Pete? Okay, if you haven't heard by now, Sweet Pete basically mirrors Bobby Driscoll, the boy who played Peter Pan, who ended up having just a horrible life when he was thrown aside by Hollywood. It had to be on purpose, because here's Peter Pan looking at himself in the mirror and he's got acne. And Bobby Driscoll, one of the things that stalled his career was an incredibly bad case of acne in puberty. Like, this had to be on purpose. What the hell are you doing? This is a horrible taste. I'm sorry, everybody. I don't know what got into me there. Long story short, I don't know. I'd probably give this movie like a 5 out of 10, maybe a 4 out of 10, depending. We'll stick with 5. I'm feeling charitable here. It's thoroughly mediocre. I want something better than mediocrity from Disney. You know, Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers sets up this incredible premise of a world in which, you know, animated people and regular people are living together. And unlike Who Framed Roger Rabbit, which was made in the 80s and set in the 40s, this is set in the modern day. And there are so many different types of animation. You could do so many interesting things with it. And instead they chose the lazy route of recognizable references that they knew would connect with a great number of people. And what frustrates me is that Disney has just insane amounts of resources. And I'm not just talking about money. They attract the best of the best when it comes to animators. And by the way, to all you animators that did the faux 2D in Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers, it looked like crap, but I recognize that that was probably because you were not given enough time to actually make it look good. Like, I genuinely think most of the 2D, using air quotes, 2D characters in Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers look like they were plucked straight out of the Simpsons game from 2007. It's that sort of cel-shaded 3D. I just don't like it. The movie's very ugly to me. There didn't seem to be much thought given to any sort of cohesion, aesthetically speaking. The story is nothing. I mean, it's absolutely nothing. I think what's frustrating me about this movie, really more than anything else, is the number of legitimate reviewers that I've seen out there, like professional reviewers, who have said that this movie is a wonderful example of satire, that it has very clever satire. That's getting under my skin in a way that is hard to describe, because nothing in this movie is satirical. There's an Italian playwright called Dario Fo, and he talked about the difference between satire and teasing. And with satire, especially Juvenalian satire, typically you're using humor, exaggeration, and parody to call attention to something that is bad and needs to change. And typically you're using humor and smiles to get the audience on board with your viewpoint that, hey, this needs to change. So for instance, what people are saying Chip 'n Dale does when they say that it's satire is it's calling attention to the state of modern Hollywood. You know, all of the crossovers and, you know, how pop culture interacts with internet culture. And it's satirizing that. But it's not. Because all Chip 'n Dale does is it points at these trends and says, hey, isn't that weird? It's not subversive in any way, shape, or form. And in fact, it's nothing but teasing. All it does is it points out how funny it is. And indeed, it repeats many of the things that it points out as being silly. You know, like there's that point when Chip talks about how sad it is to see cartoon characters rap, and then Chip 'n Dale end up rapping, and it's a really bad rap. But it's okay because it's meta humor, so that makes it funny. No, it doesn't. All it does is it says, Yeah, isn't this ridiculous? But hey, we can laugh at ourselves. Doesn't that make it okay?
Oh, they're laughing at me. I know that. You can't hurt my feelings if I'm in on the joke.
And what it does is it humanizes these studios that are putting out lazy shit constantly. It humanizes them and makes us think, well, they can see that they're doing it, and that makes it okay. That's funny. You know, we can sympathize with that. So instead of Chip and Dale calling out all of the stupid things that Hollywood is doing and saying, look, this needs to change, all it's doing is saying, isn't this crazy, the state that we find ourselves in? All you can do is laugh at it. And that's just sad to me. There's a chance to actually get in there and talk about the fact that all we get anymore from major studios, especially Disney and Disney-owned studios like Marvel and Lucasfilm, are these movies that are crafted to be as widely appealing as possible, that rely very heavily on references and nostalgia to connect with its audiences, and doesn't put any effort into artistry, into making memorable media that's gonna stick with you. Like, for instance, I can't remember the last MCU movie that I went and saw in the theater that I thought to myself, wow, I can't wait for that to come to digital so I can watch that as many times as I want. I freaking love seeing them in the theater, but they don't stick with me. They don't become something that I want to watch over and over again. You know, there are superhero movies that I can watch, that I still watch. Spider-Man 2, The Dark Knight, The Batman actually is one that I've watched a couple times now because it's such an interesting story and it's such an interesting examination of characters. But you know, Marvel movies are products made to be as absolutely profitable as possible. And look, I'm not naive. All movies are products. It's just you have a choice to make a movie profitable. The first choice is to do what Disney and many of its subsidiaries do, which is, okay, what's the formula that we need to hit to bring everybody on board? We got to reference these characters because people will get a dopamine hit as soon as they see this character come on screen. And let's get these references. Ooh, and let's get this nostalgia in there. Because if we keep hitting the audience with these things, they're going to get dopamine hits from it, and they're going to be tricked into liking the movie. The other option is, let's create something memorable and magic. Let's write an interesting story. Let's get a director and give them full control so that they can have a singular vision. And let's create something that is going to stick in people's minds, that's going to make them feel something. And movies can make you feel something in all kinds of different ways. Sometimes it's through a well-written story, sometimes it's through just incredible direction, sometimes it's like Mad Max Fury Road, where it's just the pure spectacle and utter insanity of the visuals that make it memorable. I don't know. I guess I'm just worried that by putting something like Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers on a pedestal and saying that this is a great movie, we're telling Disney that, yeah, your strategy's working. We don't need anything with substance. Just keep hitting us with those references and that meta humor, and everything's gonna be okay. Guys, I can't believe this. We've got even more patrons that have joined since my last video. I want to go through and just all my active patrons want to go through, say their names, and say thank you. We've got Chase Walbaum. I hope I say that right, Chase. I'm sorry. Chloe Smith, Sword Symbol 79. Okay, Anders. I'm just gonna ask your forgiveness right off the bat. I'm gonna do my best here. Anders Vangsnies? Bo? Anders Vangsnies Bo. Let me know how bad I did there. Thank you for your support, Anders. M. Shelton, and of course, A. Steve. Which, that Steve is actually the Steve that I mentioned in my SNES retro review, my old friend. So, I'm incredibly grateful for his support. If you want to support me, head on over to my Patreon. You can become a patron for $1, and I am adding a perk, and that perk is my Switch friend code. So all you have to do is donate as little as $1 a month, and you will get my Switch friend code, and we can play Mario Kart. And we'll be good friends. If you like this video, go ahead and click like. If you didn't like it, go ahead and click dislike and let me know how wrong I am. And subscribe. Effing keep on keeping on.